Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dear student teachers, today I am with you again with lecture number 14 of Functional English 1. Lecture number 14 is about summarizing non-fiction. And if you can recall, in lecture number 12, we learned how to summarize fiction, how to summarize a narrative text. In particular, we summarized a story. In lecture number 14, we are going to learn how to summarize non-fiction. And non-fiction could be any text. It could be a descriptive text. It could be an argumentative text. Basically, it is based on facts and not on fiction. We move on, and before we move on, let's look at the important points that we learned in lecture number 13 first. In lecture number 13, we learned how to share life experiences. And if you can recall, I started lecture number 13 with my own personal life experiences. So I would like to ask you a question. Which one of my experiences did you like the most? I'm not sure if you still remember those, but if you ask me, the most interesting life experience that I shared was going bungee jumping. So you can recall, I have gone bungee jumping. This is probably the most memorable experience in my life. Of course, we don't have many opportunities of bungee jumping in Pakistan. I don't even know if there is any such service in any cities of Pakistan, but this is one of the exciting, adventurous sport that I really enjoyed. And afterwards, I also asked you to share your life experiences. So probably you have come up with a list of experiences that you would like to share with your colleagues, with your students, with your friends and family members. And while we were learning how to share life experiences, we also learned how to use simple past tense and how to use present perfect tense and how to differentiate between the two. This was really very important because very often we make mistakes in the correct use of these two tenses. We confuse them. Now, let me check your understanding of the previous lecture before we move on to lecture number 14. How do we say it in English? Do we say, I have completed my master's in 1998? Or do we say, I completed my master's in 1998? So which one is correct? I have completed my master's in 1998? Or I completed my master's in 1998. As you have noticed, the first sentence is in present perfect tense and the second sentence is in simple past tense. I repeat, I have completed my master's in 1998 or I completed my master's in 1998. Which one of these sentences is correct? Yes, those of you who say, I completed my master's in 1998 are right because we need to use past simple here. And why do we need to use past simple here? Because of the time, specified time given. So when I say in 1998, I'm talking about a past event that does not necessarily have a connection, that does not have connection to the present. Therefore, we will use simple past tense here. So please be sure and don't make this mistake. Whenever you talk, whenever you give a specific time, whenever time is asked or whenever specific time is mentioned, you must use simple past tense and you shouldn't use present perfect tense. Okay, so I hope there is enough review of lecture number 13. Let's move on. Okay, what are the objectives of lecture number 14? In lecture number 14, we are going to look at differentiating between fiction and non-fiction. You know, lecture number 14 is about summarizing non-fiction. So the very first objective is to differentiate between fiction and non-fiction. The next skill that we will learn is we'll be able to analyze paragraph structure, or instead I should say text structure. Because the way text is constructed, the way text is structured, if we can understand it, it is usually easy for us to summarize it. So, you know, summarizing something depends on how well we understand a text. And understanding a text depends on understanding its structure, the way information is organized. So it is crucial that we understand the text structure because it will help us understand the text itself. And once we understand the text, we can summarize it. So these are linked. We will also learn how to summarize paragraphs. And of course, if we can analyze structure, the next step we can do is to summarize it, to write it or restate important points in our own words. And finally, you are going to learn, you are going to write some summaries of essays and articles. So the lecture objectives of lecture number 14 are pretty obvious. Basically, it's focused on two skills, and they are reading and writing skills. In fact, for writing a perfect summary or for writing an ideal summary, understanding is crucial, and understanding comes with reading. So reading and writing here go hand in hand, and they complement each other. All right, we begin with a fundamental question, which is, what is non-fiction? Non-fiction is a kind of prose writing. Prose writing basically can be divided into two types, fiction and non-fiction. Non-fiction is a narrative, account, or other communicative work whose assertions and descriptions are believed by the author to be factual. So here I want you to look at the words narrative. You remember we looked at narrative texts in earlier lecture. A narrative text is that narrates events like a story, important events that took place. So basically it is narration, narrating an event. Account means description. So it could be a narrative text, it could be a descriptive text, or it could be some other communicative work. Other communicative work means like maybe an advertisement, maybe a leaflet or a brochure, maybe a magazine article that merely gives you information, or maybe a lesson from the textbook. They are not necessarily narratives or descriptives. They could fall under some other category which has some other communicative purpose. So non-fiction could be a descriptive text, it could be narrative text, it could be informative text, it could be persuasive text. In other words, non-fiction could have multiple purposes and multiple texts. So what makes it non-fiction is whose assertions and descriptions are believed by the author to be factual. So the word factual is important here, that's why I have underlined it. Fact and fiction, they are the opposite. Factual means that something is based on fact, something is based on reality, whereas fiction is something which is piece of imagination, which does not really exist. It is merely a piece of imagination. So the word factual is really important because if something is based on fact or reality, it is called factual. Now, non-fiction does not necessarily mean that it is based on fact. It is based on assertions and descriptions that are believed by the author to be factual. So it doesn't have to be based on facts. It is merely an assumption that the author thinks that it is based on a fact, or maybe the author wants you to believe that it is based on a fact. It may not be based on fact, but still it will be called factual because the author believes so, because the author makes a claim that it is factual. Whereas fiction is based on piece of imagination, the author explicitly you can say claims that it is purely imaginative, and he hasn't really taken anything from real life, although sometimes the real life event could be an impetus or could be a motive for writing a story. So basically you would say that non-fiction is something which is not fiction. It is believed to be based on fact or reality by its author. Okay, now let's look at some kind of fiction. So what genres come under it? Non-fiction could include essays, diaries, journals, memoirs, documentaries, biographies, science books, newspaper and magazine articles. So you see, these are various texts that are found in various books and that have various purposes, but they are all non-fiction because they are not based on imagination. Essay, for example, by imagination I means that the characters and events in it are not imaginative. For example, essays, and essays could be persuasive or argumentative. For example, you write an essay on a debatable topic, whether students should be allowed mobile phone in their classes or not. Right? Now this is debatable, so you can speak in, you can write in favor of it or you can write against it. Essay could be descriptive. For example, you describe an event, or you describe a process, or you describe a person or a place, so it could be descriptive. If you describe an event, it would be a narrative. So essay could be narrative, it could be descriptive, it could be persuasive or argumentative. Diaries are narratives, so are journals and memoirs. Documentaries are informational, based on facts and figures. So are biographies. They are biographies of the real people, real men. Science books could be descriptive. Newspapers and magazine articles could serve various purposes. So in short, non-fiction can include various kind of texts, and basically summarizing a piece of fiction is very different from summarizing non-fiction, and that's why I have dealt with it separately in a different lecture. And I don't want you to confuse summarizing all kinds of texts together. I want you to think of them separately. In fact, summarizing non-fiction involves different set of skills, different sets of tools and techniques and strategies that we are going to look at in this lecture. But it would be good if you can recall lecture number 12, in which we learned how to summarize narrative text, or how to summarize fiction actually. All right. Let's begin with the fundamental question. In lecture number 12, you had learnt what summary is, and I want you to recall. So which one of these 4 options is correct? I want you to read all the 4 statements here. Which one of these is correct? So you have 4 options. What is a summary? A summary is your opinions about a text. B, a summary is a a summary is shortened form of a text with all of the main ideas. C, a summary is all of the ideas from a text written in your own words. D, a summary is a review of a text with main ideas and your opinions. So which one of these 4 options do you think is correct? Yes, you are right. Option B is correct here. A summary is a shortened form of a text, right? With all of the main ideas. Remember, all of the main ideas, not all of the ideas. All of the main ideas. So A is incorrect because summary does not state your opinion. Summary is simply restatement or retelling of the original story or the original text. So it does not have your opinion or your response to the text. It merely recaptures, restates, restates the text. So A is incorrect because a summary does not include your opinions. C is incorrect because it does not include all of the ideas. It merely includes all of the main ideas. You don't include all the ideas. D is incorrect because it does not include your opinions. Again, just like A. So the right option is option B. A summary is a shortened form of a text with all of the main ideas. Okay. Now, what makes a good summary? Well, people have written many books on the art of summarizing. Summary writing is important, and therefore there are so many guidelines out there that may even confuse you because they are so long, there are so many. So I would like you to focus on just 4 ideas when you are summarizing. Include the important ideas from the text. Right? So this is the first thing that you need to do. After you have read a text, you need to include the important ideas from the text. Not all the ideas, only the main ideas, only the important ideas. Which ideas are main, which ideas are important? It is not easy to determine that. We'll see why it is important, why some ideas are important and why other ideas can be ignored. We'll look at it in detail. But this is one of the basic rules, that you are going to include the main ideas from the text. Number 2, you are going to put ideas in your own words. This is also very important. Copying ideas is not summarizing. In fact, you have to understand it, you have to assimilate it before you explain it, before you narrate it or restate it in your own words. The third important basic rule is that leave out little details and repeated information. Very often a piece of text has information which is repeated for the sake of emphasis maybe. A writer or an author repeats the same idea in various ways. So we can easily skip that information and we don't need to repeat it in our summary. We just write it once. Similarly, we need to leave out little details. We should only focus on the main idea, and we should leave out the little or the trivial details. The fourth basic rule of a good summary is to use the text structure of the text. We will talk about it in detail. How a text is formed, how information is structured in a text is very important. For this, you need to understand the elements of a text. If you can recall, while we were learning how to summarize a story, you looked at elements of story. I hope you can still remember them. So what are the elements of story? Yes, you have characters, you have setting, you have a problem or a conflict, you have a resolution. So these are important elements, and of course there is plot, and plot includes conflict and resolution. So if you understand how a story is structured, it is easy for you to summarize it. Similarly, you also need to learn how an essay or an article is structured. What are the main elements or what are the main building blocks or the units of information? It will be easier for you to summarize it. So in a moment we are going to look at the structure of the text in order to write a good summary. Okay, now the first of these four basic rules is to include important ideas from the text. So here I have I've got a text from the internet, and I want you to go through it, read it first, and then I want you to underline the important ideas in this text. Remember, this is non-fiction. So this is actually taken from a science book. So all the information might be important. You might think that it is a crucial piece of information and you can't skip it. But remember, we are going to summarize it. So that means we have to pick out certain information which is important. Now, how will you determine which information is important and which is not? The answer to this question depends on many factors. One factor is the purpose of your summary. Why are you writing this summary? Who are you writing this summary to? And how much time they have got for it. So if you are writing a summary for some decision makers and they are pretty busy people, you are going to make it brief. You are going to make it very short. Otherwise, you might make it a bit longer. Of course, a summary is always shorter than the original text. It can never be of the same size as, of the same length as the original text, and worse still, it could never be longer than the original text. So a summary should always be shorter than the original. Sometimes it is 1/2 of the original, sometimes it is 1/3 of the original, sometimes it is 1/4 of the original. Sometimes you summarize the whole paragraph or the whole text into a single sentence. If you can recall, while we watched a short video clip in which a cop, I think it was in lecture number 12, a cop or a policeman was summarizing Cinderella and also summarizing Titanic in just 1 or 2 sentences. Because the purpose is just to give the main idea, the main gist. But if you want to give the main ideas, not just one idea, but the important ideas in a text, then probably you can have it in 3 or 4 sentences. Okay, now I'm going to read out this, this text first, and then we will determine which one of these ideas are important. Many butterflies depend on certain plants to survive. As adults, butterflies drink nectar, but caterpillars eat leaves. Some caterpillars only eat the leaves of specific plants. Monarch caterpillars, for example, eat only milkweed. If butterflies cannot find the food source they need for their eggs, the next generation will not survive. When habitats are changed, such as when wetlands are drained or forests are cleared, butterfly populations may drop dramatically. According to the Xeres Society, an invertebrate conservation group, over 50 kinds of US butterflies are at risk. Okay, so this simple piece of text is taken from a science book. And let's look at its layout first. There are 2 paragraphs in it. Okay, and there are lots of things that basically it is about butterflies and caterpillars. So butterflies and caterpillars are the key points that have been made here. Okay. Now I want you to take some time and underline the sentences that you think are important. So look at the first sentence. Many butterflies depend on certain plants to survive. Do you think this is the crucial piece of information, the important idea that you should include in your summary? What about the second sentence? As adults, butterflies drink nectar. What about the third sentence? But caterpillars eat leaves. So you will have to decide. Each of these sentences have some pieces of information, but which one of these sentences are important? Determining their importance is crucial. Okay, now according to me, the blue sentences written in blue are they express crucial piece of information, or they have the important ideas in them. The first sentence, for example, many butterflies depend on certain plants to survive. This is an important idea according to me. You may differ, maybe you don't agree with me on some occasions, but you have to give your reason why you think this is important or not very important. Okay, the second sentence that I think is very important is some caterpillars only eat the leaves of specific plants. And then I've skipped the next sentence. Monarch caterpillars, for example, eat only milkweed, is actually a specific example of this main idea, or in other words, it is the detail of this main idea. So in the first paragraph, I would say that there are 2 sentences that carry important idea. Whereas in the second paragraph, the first sentence, if butterflies cannot find the food source they need for their eggs, the next generation will not survive. I would like to underline this sentence because it carries the important idea. And then the last finding by the Xeres Society is that over 50 kinds of US butterflies are at risk. I would see that this is a crucial piece of information, and this is an important idea expressed in this text. Why didn't I include the other sentences, like when habitats are changed, such as when wetlands are drained or forests are cleared, butterfly populations may drop dramatically? Why did I skip that out? Why did I leave this sentence out? Because it is merely an explanation of its previous sentence. So it is the detail, it's not the main idea. And again, according to the Ziri Society and Invertebrate Conservation Group, this is the source, and if you are doing research, of course it is very important that you give the source and proper citation. But if you are merely summarizing it, the main idea is that over 50 kinds of US butterflies are at risk. So in summary, sources are not as important as they might be in research. Okay. Now, I'm not really sure if you have underlined the same sentences, but the point here is that finding out important ideas can be a daunting task. It could be really very challenging because sometimes you might think that an idea is important, and sometimes you might drop an idea because you think it's not important, because some ideas are really interesting but they are not important. Some ideas you can say make more sense to us, or they are connected to our personal experience, but we have to look at the main ideas. Actually, by main idea I mean the general statement that we make, not the specific details or examples of that sentence. Anyway, here is a demonstration of what are the important sentences in this text. Now we move on and we look at the second basic principle of writing a good summary. I hope you can recall the 4 basic principles of writing a good summary. Yes, the first one was include main ideas from the text, and second one was put ideas in your own words. Okay. Now, putting ideas in your own words is also called paraphrasing. Instead of just copying down the author's words, we need to use our own words. This is an important point here. This is really very important because our own words, that is the important point here. We don't need to copy paste the main ideas from the author, because all the sentences are written in their own context. When you write them in your own summary, sometimes they don't make sense because now they are out of the context. And this is something that is very common among our students. What we do is that we pick out certain sentences and then we rearrange them and we think that we have written a summary. That's inappropriate. In fact, we should always try to write everything in our own words, and that's how we learn a language. Merely picking up sentences and repeating it like a parrot, cramming it or memorizing it and reproducing it in the paper, and reproducing it in the paper se dobara shuru kijiyega, and reproducing it in the paper is not enough, and that's not real learning. Real learning comes when we understand, when we comprehend a text, and then we are able to express the same ideas in our own words. So paraphrasing and summarizing actually are very crucial skills in understanding a text, in comprehending a text. So if you say that you have understood the text but you are unable to express it in your own words, probably you haven't understood the text. And this is one technique through which we check or evaluate the understanding of our students in the exam. We ask them to give a gist or main ideas of what they have studied in the text. So summarizing is very important skill for students, and you will learn that later on in our professional lives. Writing a summary is a crucial skill, is an important skill, a vital skill, I would say. And so I cannot overemphasize the point that we must write it in our own words. So how do we write sentences in our own words? There are some tips and techniques that we look now. For example, take this sentence. Can you paraphrase this sentence from the text? You know, this sentence is taken from the text. Many butterflies depend on certain plants to survive. Can you write the same idea in your own words? Can you paraphrase it? So when you are going to paraphrase it, what things are important? Remember that you cannot alter the meaning, you cannot change the information which is provided here. But at the same time, paraphrase simply is a restatement of the sentence in your own words. That means you cannot add anything to it. You cannot delete anything from it. So it's really difficult, I know, that if you can't add anything, if you cannot delete anything, if you cannot express your opinion about the sentence, if you can't explain it, you simply have to restate it in your own words. That means there is very little room left for you to do. How are you going to write it in your own words? One technique is you can try using synonyms for important words. Synonyms means similar words, words that have similar meanings. So think of these words. Many butterflies depend on certain plants to survive. So you can look at the word depend on, and you can think of some other synonyms, some other words that carry similar meanings. Depend on, rely on, are based on. Okay, so these are probably some other synonyms that you can use. Certain plants could be specific plants. Survive means, well, you can use another word for survive, to live, to exist. Okay. Of course, we can't change the main word butterflies here because butterflies doesn't really have any synonym, and it's the key information here. So we are not going to change butterfly here. But instead we can change depend on, and we can change survive. These we can look for synonyms, and one way you can do it is by using computers. When you are typing a word in your word processor, you can right click on it and you can look for synonyms, and you might find some words or phrases that can express similar meaning, and they will help you in paraphrasing it. So this is one technique. Let's move on. Another technique is you can try changing the order of ideas. You remember when we were summarizing fiction, when we were summarizing narrative texts, it was crucial to retain the order or the sequence of events. But here, because we deal with information, we can actually change the order of ideas. So instead of writing many butterflies depend on certain plants to survive, we can convert it into passive voice, for example. No, I don't think so. But we can change the subject, we can change the object, and the meaning would still be the same. Let me give you a hint. I don't want to do this on this particular sentence, but if you say that I have helped Ali, or Ali was helped by me, both these sentences have the same meaning, but I have changed the order of ideas here. Okay? Or Ali borrowed money from me. I lent some money to Ali. So instead of using borrowed, I can use the word Ali, and I changed the subject with the object. So sometimes you can change the order of the ideas. Sometimes you can use the synonyms for certain words. These are some two important ways of paraphrasing. Okay, now let's look at this sentence and how you can paraphrase them. Here is one way to paraphrase the sentence. How does it compare to yours? I hope that you have paraphrased it. So one way is, many butterflies depend on certain plants to survive. Butterflies need specific plants to live. So one way is, instead of survive, instead of to survive, we can use the word to live. And instead of depend on, we can use the word need. And instead of the word certain, we can use the word specific. And we can cross away the word many, all right? So it could be shorter. Butterflies need specific plants to live. Why it is shorter? Because we have crossed out the word many. We have, instead of using two words depend on, we have used one word need, which expresses more or less the same meaning. Okay, so this is one way to paraphrase it. Let's move on. We move on, and now we look at using some text structure. And I have emphasized it earlier that in order to summarize a text, we must first understand how the text is structured. If we understand the main elements of a text, and if we know how the text is structured, it is easier for us to summarize it. So when you look at the text structure, you can find the big ideas and see how to organize your summary. So after you have underlined the main ideas, you need to find ways to organize your information. And you can organize your information in various ways, right? Let's look at some structures that texts commonly use. Now, a descriptive text has a structure in which something has been described. For example, if a process has been described in a user manual, you remember we learned this. If a process has been described in a user manual, it is usually numbered list. Step 1, step 2, step 3, because a process is usually a series of a step. So it could be a numbered list of a description. And of course, we should retain the same order, otherwise we will confuse our readers when we are writing a summary. Okay, another relationship between the big ideas is that of cause and effect. So it is called causal relationship. What caused what? What is affected by what? So you can say due to due to inflation, prices of things have gone up. Okay, so due to inflation is the cause, prices of things have gone up is the result or the effect. We need to analyze text first and find out whether this text is using a structure of description, whether the ideas are interrelated with each other through cause and effect relationship, or whether they are organized or arranged in chronological order. Cause and effect order is also called logical order, because one thing logically leads to another thing. Whereas chronological order means how events took place in time. So action 1 took place earlier than action 2. This is the chronological order. Usually the stories are told in the chronological order unless we want to retain suspense. Then we have problem solution. Most of the texts, they use a structure in which the essay or the article can be divided into two parts. One part explains or describes what the problem is, and the second part explains or describes what could be the possible solution. So many texts actually have problem-solution relationship between them. We also have some texts that compare or contrast two ideas or more than two ideas. So what we need to understand is the relationship between various ideas or various threads of meaning that are used in making the fabric of a text. Right? As a fabric has, you can say, it is made up of thread. Similarly, a text is, you think of it as a fabric which is made up of many ideas. So how these ideas are interwoven, how these ideas interact with each other, what is the relationship between those ideas, whether they express causal or logical relationship between them, whether they give chronological or historical perspective, whether they are based on problem-solution relationship, whether they are using the compare and contrast strategy. So we need to understand how themes are interwoven, how main ideas are interlinked. Once we have understood it, we can use a similar way to organize ideas in our summary. Okay, now keeping the text structure in mind, can you analyze the text structure of this text? This is the same text that you have studied earlier, and we analyzed that this text has two paragraphs in it, and so the building blocks or the units that have been used in it are paragraphs, and each paragraph deals with a single idea. So we must get main idea of each paragraph. Now, how are ideas interrelated? Let's look at the first paragraph. Many butterflies depend on certain plants to survive, and we earlier we declared that this is the main idea of this paragraph. Earlier we declared that the first sentence carries the main idea of this paragraph. Look at the first sentence. Many butterflies depend on certain plants to survive. As adults, butterflies drink nectar. Right? So this is a specific example of the main idea. We talked about butterflies that depend on certain plants to survive, and we know that nectar is the extract or the juice of certain flowers, and flowers are part of plants. So this is the specific example of the main idea. What about caterpillars? But caterpillars eat leaves. Some caterpillars only eat the leaves of specific plants. Monarch caterpillars, for example, eat only milkweed. This is a specific example of caterpillars. So what kind of relationship do you see in this between the main ideas in the first paragraph? Yes, there is comparison and contrast. So you have comparison and contrast between butterflies and caterpillars. But there is also a text structure that underlies a different kind of interrelationship between the ideas, and that is cause and effect. Okay. Especially if you look at the second paragraph, you would find if butterflies cannot find the food source they need for their eggs, the next generation will not survive. This is the main idea, and definitely you have a clear pattern here. It is cause and effect. Okay, if this happens, this they will not survive. So we have the conditional sentence. If this condition is fulfilled, this action will happen. So definitely we are talking about the causal relationships here. We are talking about cause and effect relationship. So you can say that the first paragraph actually uses compare and contrast and cause and effect relationship, whereas in the second paragraph we have mainly cause and effect relationship between the main ideas. So once you have analyzed the text, it will be easier for you to write your summary, and in your summary you can organize the ideas in a similar fashion. You can give cause and effect relationship here. Well, not all the texts are structured in this way. As we talked earlier, they can use the text structure of description. They can be in logical order, cause and effect. They can be in historical or chronological order. They can be problem and solution. They can have problem or solution relationship. And there can be comparison and contrast. And in fact, there could be some other ways to organize text as well. Now, instead of looking a complete essay, I want you to analyze a paragraph in order to understand a paragraph structure. Earlier, we were talking about text structure, and we were talking about the relationship between the ideas. But these ideas are expressed through sentences. These ideas are expressed through paragraphs, and these paragraphs are expressed through sentences. So what kind of relationship exists between sentences in a paragraph? Let me start by reading out this paragraph first, and then we will analyze it. There are several serious health hazards directly linked to smoking. The link between smoking and cancer is well known. As well, smoking is linked to other lung diseases like emphysema and bronchitis. Smokers also have a greater risk of heart disease later in life. This is evidenced in recent court cases in the USA, where smokers have been awarded damages from tobacco companies. Further, there is substantial research that even passive smoking can have long-term effects on health. Clearly, smoking is a dangerous habit and should be avoided. Okay, here we are learning to understand a paragraph structure for summarizing, but I would say that this paragraph structure could also play a model role for you when you are writing your own paragraph. When you are not summarizing someone's text, when you are writing your own paragraph, you can actually organize or structure your paragraph in such a way that that your ideas are clearly organized. So if you look at it, I have given it different colors. I have color coded it. The topic sentence is in brown color here. The body paragraph or the supporting sentences, they are in green color, and concluding sentence is written in yellow color here. The topic sentence, as its name suggests, is a sentence that carries the topic of the paragraph, the main idea of the paragraph. And what is the main idea? The main idea is the general information. There are several serious health hazards directly linked to smoking. So this is just the general idea. The writer has not given us the specific details or examples of these health hazards. He is simply making a statement that some health hazards are linked to act of smoking. Okay? And then in the supporting sentences, in supporting details, he gives so many sentences that give specific examples to this topic sentence. The link between smoking and cancer is well known. So this is the research has shown that cancer and smoking, they are related. So this is one specific example of health hazard. Cancer is a health hazard, and links between cancer and smoking are known. So this is the specific detail of the topic sentence. As well, smoking is linked to other lung diseases like emphysema and bronchitis. So emphysema and bronchitis are other specific diseases that are related to smoking. Smokers also have a greater risk of heart diseases. So heart diseases is the third one. In fact, you can make a list of these health hazards. In the topic sentence, the writer has given us the statement that certain health hazards are related to the act of smoking. And then in the sporting details or sporting sentences, he has talked about a list of diseases that are linked to smoking. And what are they? Cancer, emphysema or lung diseases like emphysema and bronchitis. Then we have heart disease. Okay. And there is also another evidence. So the writer has given us an evidence here as well. There is a link between tobacco and these diseases because on this basis in US some courts has decided to pay the damages. Okay. And then there is substantial research that even the passive smoking can have a long-term effect on health. So these details actually enlist what hazards are there and also gives us an evidence why these are linked, and gives us further detail that even passive smoking is as harmful as active smoking. And therefore all these sentences or the body paragraph can also because these sentences carry sporting details, so therefore these are called sporting sentences. So in future when you are writing a paragraph, you should think that one paragraph should deal only with one idea, and this idea should be first expressed in a topic sentence, and then there should be the sporting details to that support the main idea. Now usually the first sentence of a paragraph is the topic sentence. It's not the case always, but usually, frequently, the first sentence is the topic sentence of a paragraph. And the last sentence of a paragraph is usually the concluding sentence because it concludes the idea, the main idea. And what do I mean by conclusion is that the idea that was expressed in the topic sentence is restated in the last sentence of the paragraph. So clearly smoking is a dangerous habit and should be avoided. So what's the natural outcome or what's the result of this research? The main idea is that we should avoid smoking. Okay? So this is how a paragraph is structured. Before you can summarize it, you should understand the structure of a paragraph, and this can be done in two ways. One way is by looking at the link between the sentences in a paragraph, and another way is to look at the links between the ideas in the whole essay or the whole text. When the ideas are linked, I called it text structure, and when the sentences are linked, I called it paragraph structure. So both paragraph structure and the text structure, they are related to each other because ideas are expressed through sentences, ideas are expressed through paragraphs. So they are interlinked, and you can use both these ways in order to analyze a text, and that will help you in summarizing a text. So I think this is enough demonstration. Now I want to give you some practice situations so that you can do it on your own. After completing this lecture, in fact, you have learned how to analyze a structure, text structure, and you should be able to summarize now. You have also looked at paraphrasing. You are going to read a newspaper article of your own choice or an essay, and you are going to write its summary following the guidelines in this lecture. So what you need to do is you need to underline a newspaper article or an essay the first thing you would do is you would underline the main ideas in it, and you would understand the structure, the text structure and the paragraph structure in it. You would cross out any ideas that are repeated or any ideas that are not important or that are trivial. And then you would paraphrase the main ideas that you have already underlined. You would paraphrase it by using your own words. And then you would organize those main ideas in a same way, whether it is compare and contrast, whether it is description, whether it is problem or solution relationship, whether it is cause and effect relationship, chronological relationship. So whatever relationship exists between the ideas, you should reproduce it in your summary. So this is going to be your practice situation, and I hope that you would actually write it and merely won't skip this, because it is practice that will make you perfect. If you skip the practice part and you just listen to the lecture, that is really never going to help you, and it is never going to improve your skills. Okay, with this we come to the end of lecture number 14, and here is the summary again. In lecture 14 we learnt how to differentiate between fiction and non-fiction. We also learnt how to analyze paragraph structure. In fact, we also learned how to analyze text structure, the ideas, the links or the relationship between the ideas, and we also learned how to analyze paragraph structure, the link or the relationship between the sentences or between the paragraphs. In brief, we learned how to summarize paragraphs and how to summarize essays and articles. So I hope that these tips and techniques, these demonstrations and guidelines will help you in writing your own summaries, and in future not only you would understand essays and articles better, but you would use these paraphrasing techniques, you would use these summarizing skills, and that will help your understanding, and it will also help you in summarizing the text properly. You should actually link this lecture number 14 with lecture number 12. If you can recall, lecture number 12 was about summarizing a narrative text. And basically we dealt with fictional texts in lesson number or lecture number 12. In lecture number 14 we looked at summarizing non-fiction. So you should have an idea of the difference between fiction and non-fiction and various skills that are involved in it. I would quickly like to recap the major differences between summarizing fiction and summarizing non-fiction. In summarizing fiction, our main focus is on the setting, characters, and the plot, which includes the conflict and its resolution. Whereas in non-fiction, our main focus is on the main ideas, the supporting details, the concluding sentence, and the way these ideas are organized. In fiction, usually there are many creative ways of interlinking the events and characters. Whereas in non-fiction, these ideas are usually linked in various ways. So once you understand the text structure, your techniques of summarizing also change. Okay. With this, we come to the end of lecture number 14, and I hope that you have learned quite a lot, and it would help you in writing summaries of non-fiction texts. Thank you very much.